Most people think avoidant personalities never truly commit, that they're destined to keep love at arm's length forever. But what if I told you there's one type of partner who can slip past those defenses and create a bond so strong it lasts a lifetime? It's not about charm or persistence or even patience. It's something much deeper, something Carl Jung himself described in his theory of the shadow. Stick with me to the end, and you'll see why avoidants only ever let one kind of person all the way in. And while you're here, share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear them. Avoidant personalities are often misunderstood, seen only as distant, detached, or uninterested in love. But beneath the surface lies a very different story. An avoidant may appear to thrive on independence, keeping people at a safe distance, but inside there is a quiet, unspoken longing for connection that never truly goes away. This hidden desire is not obvious, even to the avoidant themselves, because it is wrapped in fear. Fear of being controlled, fear of being vulnerable, fear of losing their identity if they let someone get too close. Yet human beings, no matter how guarded, are wired for attachment, and avoidants are no exception. Carl Jung's idea of the shadow helps explain this paradox. The shadow is the part of ourselves that we push away, deny, or hide, but it also carries the qualities we secretly need to feel whole. For avoidants, that hidden shadow often contains the yearning for intimacy and the capacity to trust deeply. They might tell themselves they don't need anyone. They might act cold or unavailable, but unconsciously they are still searching for the one person who feels safe enough to draw out their softer side. This is why avoidance can seem indifferent in many relationships, only to suddenly commit with intensity when they meet a partner who reflects their hidden needs. That partner often embodies patience, calm strength, and a kind of steady warmth that doesn't overwhelm, but gently reassures. It is in the presence of such a partner that the avoidance defenses begin to soften, because deep down, what they have always longed for is not endless freedom, but a love that honors their space while also making them feel secure enough to stay. The secret longing behind avoidance is not about escaping people. It is about finding the one connection that feels safe enough to finally let their guard down. And when they do, something remarkable happens. The avoidant who once seemed cold or unreachable often becomes deeply loyal, protective, and committed, precisely because they know how rare it is for someone to see past their walls. This is why avoidants are often described as making lifelong bonds when they meet the right partner. Their attachment might take time to reveal itself, but once it does, it is not easily broken. In many ways, their love is a hidden treasure, buried under layers of self-protection, waiting for the right person to uncover it. Understanding this hidden longing does not excuse the challenges of avoidant behavior, but it reminds us that behind the walls there is always a human heart that craves connection, just like anyone else. Carl Jung's idea of the shadow is one of the most powerful tools for understanding why avoidant personalities bond so strongly with only a certain type of partner. The shadow, as Jung described, is the hidden part of ourselves that we deny, repress, or refuse to acknowledge. It is made up of qualities we push away because they feel unsafe, shameful, or too vulnerable to show the world. Yet ironically, the shadow also contains the very traits we secretly need in order to feel complete. For avoidants, their shadow is often filled with the very things they claim not to want: closeness, reliance, vulnerability, and intimacy. On the surface, they may pride themselves on independence, emotional control, and self-sufficiency, but beneath that exterior lives a yearning for the connection they've hidden away. This is why the partners who resonate most deeply with avoidance are not just anyone. They tend to embody the qualities that exist in the avoidance shadow. These partners are open where the avoidant is closed, nurturing where the avoidant is guarded, and steady where the avoidant is uncertain. Such traits act as a mirror, reflecting back the pieces of the avoidant that have been denied but never erased. It is not that avoidants consciously choose these partners. It is more that they feel drawn to them in a way they cannot fully explain, as if something in their unconscious recognizes a missing piece. The shadow, in this sense, pulls them toward balance by leading them to people who carry what they lack. This is why an avoidant who resists closeness with many may suddenly find themselves magnetically attached to someone who feels strangely familiar, even if that familiarity is rooted in their hidden self. When the avoidant meets such a partner, it is as though they are encountering their own shadow in human form, someone who awakens the softer parts they have buried but still crave. This is not always easy, because facing the shadow can stir discomfort, resistance, and even fear. The avoidant may fight against the closeness at first, testing the partner or pulling away when things get too intense. But if the partner remains steady without forcing, the avoidant slowly discovers that the very qualities they resisted are the ones that bring them peace. Over time, this connection can become unbreakable because it is not based on surface attraction or convenience, but on the deeper psychological truth that the avoidant has found their missing half. Jung's shadow shows us that bonding is not random. It is a process of unconscious recognition, a way of seeking wholeness through another. For avoidants, this means that the one partner they allow in for life is usually the one who embodies the hidden side they've been running from. And once that shadow is embraced, the avoidant no longer feels threatened by intimacy. Instead, they feel complete, as though they have finally found the other half of themselves. When it comes to avoidant personalities, most relationships never reach the depth of true intimacy, not because the avoidant cannot love, but because their defenses are designed to keep closeness at a distance. They may withdraw when things become too emotional, they may push away when someone tries to get too close, and they may appear detached even when they care deeply. Yet there is a certain type of partner who can quietly slip past these defenses and reach the heart that hides behind them, and this type of partner carries traits that are as rare as they are powerful. The avoidant's ideal partner is not someone who overwhelms them with intensity, demands constant closeness, or pressures them to open up faster than they are ready. Instead, this partner offers a gentle but steady presence, someone who combines patience with consistency and independence with emotional warmth. They give the avoidant space without withdrawing love, and they offer care without making the avoidant feel smothered. This delicate balance is what allows trust to grow, because avoidants are deeply sensitive to anything that feels controlling or consuming. When a partner respects their independence while still showing unwavering emotional availability, the avoidant begins to experience closeness without fear, perhaps for the first time. Over time, these traits build a sense of safety, showing the avoidant that vulnerability does not have to mean losing themselves, and intimacy does not have to mean giving up freedom. In fact, the more secure they feel with such a partner, the more naturally their defenses soften, and the more loyalty and devotion they reveal. It is not uncommon for avoidants, once bonded with this type of partner, to show a depth of commitment that surprises even them, because what they have found is not just a lover, but a sanctuary. Trust becomes the cornerstone of this bond, and it is earned not through grand gestures, but through the quiet reliability of a partner who stays steady through both closeness and distance. This is why avoidants may seem indifferent in many relationships, but suddenly become deeply invested when they meet the one person who embodies these rare traits. That partner essentially unlocks a door that has been closed to the rest of the world, not by forcing it open, but by standing patiently and consistently at its threshold until the avoidant feels safe enough to open it themselves. Once that bond is formed, it is rarely broken, because for an avoidant, finding someone who can honor both their need for space and their hidden longing for closeness is nothing short of life-changing. The defenses that once kept love out become unnecessary, and what remains is a bond built not on fear, but on trust, freedom, and an unshakable sense of being understood. Avoidant personalities are often seen as emotionally unreachable. They can appear self-reliant, detached, or even uninterested in love, leaving many people around them wondering if they are capable of deep emotional connection at all. But that view is only the surface, a layer of armor built to protect something far more vulnerable and human underneath. The truth is that avoidants can and do love deeply, sometimes more deeply than those who wear their emotions openly. What makes them different is that their love requires a very particular environment to emerge, and when it does, the transformation can be astonishing. This shift from distance to devotion is not just a matter of choice, but a profound psychological journey, one that often begins when the avoidant encounters a partner who reflects their shadow, the hidden part of themselves they have long denied. At first, the avoidant resists, The early stages of such a connection can feel confusing, even threatening, because this partner stirs something unfamiliar yet hauntingly recognizable. Unlike others who may have triggered the avoidance defenses, this person feels different. They embody qualities the avoidant has buried in their unconscious. Jung described the shadow as the part of us we disown but secretly need to feel whole, and for avoidance, that shadow often includes vulnerability, openness, and trust. When they meet someone who naturally displays these traits in a calm, grounded way, it can feel both magnetic and terrifying. The avoidant is drawn in because something deep inside recognizes the missing half, yet their protective instincts warn them to pull away. This push and pull creates the first stage of transformation, where fear collides with attraction and distance battles against the desire to connect. If the partner has the right temperament, steady, patient, and secure, the avoidant slowly begins to test the waters of trust. This testing stage may look like mixed signals, moments of warmth followed by withdrawal, affection followed by silence, openness followed by retreat. To the outside observer, it might seem inconsistent or confusing, but underneath it is the avoidance nervous system trying to recalibrate. They are learning, perhaps for the first time, that closeness does not always equal danger. Each time the partner responds with calm steadiness instead of pressure or judgment, a tiny crack forms in the avoidance defenses. Over time, these cracks expand, allowing small streams of genuine intimacy to flow through. It is here that the transformation begins in earnest. The avoidant starts to associate love with safety rather than loss of control. As this process unfolds, the avoidant undergoes a profound internal shift. Where they once saw relationships as traps that threatened their independence, they now begin to see them as sources of nourishment and grounding. Devotion, a quality many thought absent in them, starts to surface naturally. This devotion is not casual or fleeting. It comes from a place of depth, precisely because it has been so hard won. The avoidant knows how rare it is to feel safe enough to let their guard down, and once they do, they hold on to that bond with remarkable loyalty. Unlike more anxious forms of attachment, which may express love through intensity or neediness, the avoidance devotion often shows up as quiet but powerful commitment. They show up when it matters, they protect the relationship fiercely, and they give a steadiness that surprises even those closest to them. The transformation also brings another surprising gift: vulnerability. For someone who has spent years avoiding emotional exposure, sharing inner feelings can feel like stepping into uncharted territory. But with their shadow mirror partner, the avoidant discovers that vulnerability does not mean weakness, it means trust. In those moments of opening up, the avoidant begins to integrate parts of themselves they once rejected, creating a sense of wholeness. They may talk about fears they never admitted, dreams they never voiced, or past wounds they kept hidden. The partner, by receiving these truths with acceptance rather than judgment, reinforces the avoidant's newfound sense of safety. It is through this cycle, risking openness, receiving acceptance, and growing stronger because of it, that the avoidance devotion deepens into something lasting and unshakable. This journey from distance to devotion is not without challenges. Old patterns do not disappear overnight, and moments of withdrawal may still surface when stress or conflict arises. Yet the difference is that, with the right partner, these moments no longer spiral into permanent disconnection. The avoidant learns that retreat does not have to mean abandonment, and repair is possible. Each time the couple works through these cycles, the bond strengthens, and the avoidance devotion grows more secure. What once was a defensive wall becomes a flexible boundary, one that protects their individuality without shutting love out. This balance, space, and closeness, existing side by side, is the hallmark of their transformation. What makes this transformation so powerful is that it does not just change the way the avoidant relates to their partner, it changes the way they relate to themselves. By embracing the shadow qualities their partner embodies, they reclaim parts of their own humanity they had long suppressed. They discover that needing someone is not the same as losing themselves, and that devotion can coexist with independence. In fact, many avoidants find that their freedom feels more genuine when it is rooted in a secure bond rather than defended by walls. The devotion they show is not born from desperation but from choice, a conscious commitment to the person who made them feel whole. For most of their lives, avoidants live in a constant negotiation between desire and fear. On one side is the human need for closeness, something that exists in everyone, no matter how much it's denied. On the other side is the deep-rooted fear that intimacy will swallow them, strip them of independence, or expose vulnerabilities they have worked so hard to hide. This tension shapes their relationships. They may want love, but they fear losing themselves inside of it. Many potential bonds fail under this strain, as partners misinterpret the avoidant's distance as lack of care, or as the avoidant retreats at the first sign of emotional intensity. Yet when an avoidant encounters the rare partner who embodies qualities from their shadow, the openness, warmth, and patience, they secretly long for a new possibility emerges. This is the path toward a lifelong bond that is not built on fear, but on integration, healing, and trust. The key to this transformation lies in shadow integration. Carl Jung described the shadow as the parts of ourselves we exile, the pieces we deny or project onto others because they feel too threatening to face. For avoidance, these hidden parts often include the very capacity to depend on someone, to lean into closeness, and to feel safe while vulnerable. Meeting the right partner is like encountering their shadow in physical form, reflected back through another person's way of being. This partner does not push them to change overnight or demand what they cannot give. Instead, they provide a stable presence that slowly draws those disowned qualities to the surface. Each small act of trust, sharing a fear, staying during a conflict, opening up instead of withdrawing, becomes a step toward reclaiming what was once hidden. Over time, the avoidant learns that intimacy is not the enemy of freedom, but the doorway to a deeper kind of freedom, the freedom to be fully themselves without hiding. As integration unfolds, the avoidance relationship begins to take on a quality of permanence. This is not the permanence of obligation or fear of being alone, but the permanence born from authenticity. They are no longer maintaining closeness out of performance or expectation, but because it feels natural and safe. What makes this bond unshakable is the sense that their partner has seen them in their most guarded, defensive state and has remained steady throughout. That steadiness builds a trust so strong that even old fears lose their power. Where once the avoidant might have withdrawn at signs of conflict, they now stay to repair. Where once they equated love with suffocation, they now see it as a secure base from which to grow. The relationship becomes a living symbol of what happens when fear is replaced by devotion and defense is replaced by integration. This lifelong bond has qualities that make it distinct from other attachments. First, it carries a depth of loyalty that comes from scarcity. Avoidants do not allow many people inside their inner walls, so when they finally do, that person becomes extraordinarily significant. Unlike those who attach quickly and easily, the avoidant's trust is rare, and once given, it is not easily withdrawn. Second, the bond is balanced by a unique respect for individuality. Because avoidants value independence so strongly, they do not lose themselves in the relationship once they feel secure. Instead, they bring a stable sense of self, which allows the relationship to flourish without fear of enmeshment. Third, the devotion they show is enduring precisely because it is chosen. They are not driven by anxious fear of abandonment or by a restless search for novelty. They remain because they have found something they once thought impossible: love without fear. The partner who helps create this bond often does not realize the depth of the transformation they have witnessed. From the outside, it may look like a guarded person simply warming up, but in truth, it is a complete reorganization of how the avoidant relates to love. They have shifted from protecting themselves against intimacy to embracing it as part of their wholeness. In psychological terms, this is a kind of individuation, integrating the rejected shadow to become a fuller version of themselves. In relational terms, it is devotion that lasts a lifetime, not because it is free of challenges, but because those challenges no longer carry the same weight of fear. What makes this bond so powerful is its resilience. Life will inevitably bring stress, conflict, and change, but for an avoidant who has found safety in their shadow mirror partner, these difficulties do not dismantle the connection. Instead, they are faced together, often strengthening the bond further. The avoidant who once pulled away from closeness now fights to preserve it, not out of insecurity, but out of recognition of its value. In this way, what began as the most fragile kind of love, a cautious connection with someone deeply afraid of intimacy, becomes one of the most unshakable. At its core, the lifelong bond beyond fear is a love story of transformation. It shows that even the most self-protective hearts are capable of devotion when given the right conditions. It proves that avoidance is not the absence of love, but a defense against the fear of losing it. And it reminds us that when someone integrates their shadow, they not only heal themselves but also create a partnership that stands as a model of resilience and depth. For the avoidant, this is not just a relationship, it is a reclamation of their wholeness, a rare kind of love that feels both safe and eternal.